and we're talking to Hervé?
Hervé.
I never get it right, do I?
Saint Harvey in French. That's what it is.
I just call you the Big H.
Okay. If people can pronounce my name, because my name usually gets butchered in English.
Yeah.
Even though it's Harvey, they can just call me Harvey.
Okay. I'm going to call you Harvey.
Okay, that's probably easier.
And you're the boss.
It's the same name.
You're the boss of the Comic Book Bin, which we talk about periodically on our the Fan Film podcast, because that's where I host, or you host, I should say, and where I post a lot of the fan film films and news and all that stuff.
And just so your user know, I'm Canadian, obviously.
Uh-huh.
And like a lot of Canadians, my first language is French.
Okay.
Not English. Because people tend to think that Canadians speak English. No.
Right.
There's two languages in Canada, English and French. I happen to be one of the French guys.
That accent, I think, gives it away.
Yeah. I make it a point, because people tend to forget, and you don't want to piss me off. You probably noticed that on the website.
Yeah.
Whenever that topic comes in, everyone has something, like some it's religion, some it's sex, some it's whatever.
Right.
But if you want to get me off, pissed off, and like ranting for like, I could rant about like 5 weeks nonstop. I've done it before about that issue, the French and English in this country. I could go on and on and on and never stop.
Yeah, I've read the articles.
There's so many things we have to complain.
Yeah. You don't pull any punches when you're involved with a bin.
No. That's always what the bin has been.
Yeah.
Sometimes I have to, in some of the commentary and the debates, I've actually told Ellie, which is one of the other editor, if he thinks I go overboard, he has all the power to censor me. And stop me from going overboard.
You have like an electrical chip in your head where he presses a button on his end and you get an electrical charge.
Well, he has access to the comment and everything, and just like you, he has access to all the articles.
Right.
So he can basically clean everything that goes overboard, and that's one of the point of the comic book bin. It's only recently that I've started being more proactive. I mean, the site has been here for 6 years, and many people haven't heard of it. And it's only, I guess, this summer I started being a bit more proactive, because I've always been like that. People who know me, they know, oh boy, okay, yeah, this guy is a bubble waiting to explode or something, and he always has something to say, an argument or whatever. That's part of that comes from the Canadian, I can't use the word French Canadian. I keep saying I can't use French-speaking Canadian.
Yeah, it's like African American. Either if you were born in this country, even though you're black, you're an American. So
I'm from Quebec. I'm not in Quebec anymore. I'm in Alberta.
Right.
I love Alberta. Alberta is an American type of place in Canada.
Yeah, but you weren't born in France.
No, I was born in Quebec.
Right. So you're not French Canadian.
No.
You're Canadian Canadian. You just happen to speak French.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. And I mean, the first Canadians were the French people anyway. The first person who called themselves Canadian were French people there.
Right.
They weren't English. It's only when the English came after, they adopted the name too, because I guess they liked it. But I mean, the first people who called themselves Canadians were the French people from France who settled way back over 400 years ago, who settled here in Canada and explored most of the North American continent. Cities like St. Louis, just like my family name, St. Louis, Detroit, Cleveland, Toronto, Calgary. Guess who created all those cities? Wasn't English people. Was French people. So they teach you that in school in Quebec. They teach you that, on the car plate, the thing says "Je me souviens," which means I remember. We know these things. We never forget about our history. We don't. It's a point. It's like part of, I guess, the culture that we don't forget this thing, that we don't forget that we must not be erased from history and history books. And it's always, if you meet other Canadians who speak French, it's always a constant fight that will not back down and we keep on fighting, and we'll always take our place, and we will not accept second best, whatever. Currently, like, often, they say, well, okay, there's a lot of Chinese in Canada right now. Yeah, I don't care. French is still superior to them. Yeah, it sounds unpolitical, what's the word?
Politically correct.
You say things like that, that no matter how many Chinese there are, there's like still 20 times more French-speaking Canadians anyway. So
yeah.
There's not even you can't even compare the numbers. But I mean, people keep saying, well, why don't we do something? Why don't we learn Chinese instead? It's a language of the future. And I'm like, don't you know what country you're talking about? Like, why do you say, let's focus on the Chinese, on Mandarin, let's learn Mandarin? And so why don't you say, let's skip English? Let's all learn French and Mandarin. Why do you have to say, let's just throw French out the window and let's learn Mandarin? I mean, in this country of all places, this is one place where it's easy to learn French. I mean, there's government program, there's everything to learn French. There's French school all over this country. So if you can't even learn French, and I mean, there's a sizable, 1/4 of the country speaks French. That should be enough. You know, there's enough population here that speaks French. And if you can't even learn French, then you're gonna tell me in my face that you prefer learning Spanish or Mandarin because you think that's the language of the future. Well, if you can't even make the effort of learning French, you're not going to go very far with your Mandarin or your Spanish because you have all the tools to learn French in this country, and you're not. So that, usually I call those arguments bullshit. And
I know that
that's
word.
part of the fight I keep fighting. That's what we French-speaking Canadians fight every day, that perception that what we are, what we represent, is not important anymore. And I do it at the bin. You've noticed. I've done it recently. And it's mostly a fight with other Canadians. It has nothing to do with Americans, but I'm pretty sure Americans can probably find parallels in their own culture.
Well, yeah, it's a parallel with the Spanish and the English that's in this country. But
the difference, I would say, is that the Spanish, well, except for the parts that were amalgamated later, like Texas and New Mexico, the English have more legs to stand on than the Spanish speakers. I mean, the Spanish, you had California and places like that, but it's only now that there's actually something changing, the demographics are changing, right? But in the case of Canada...
the Spanish people are becoming the dominant majority-minority anyways.
Yeah, I believe even more than black people now, right?
Right.
So my point is that in the case of Canada, well, the first people who called themselves Canadians were French. They weren't Spanish and they weren't English. So, I mean, the people who came after the English people took the name from them. So you can't just say, well, okay, no, there's a lot of Chinese and people from other countries now and Spanish and all that, and so we're just going to forget about you French guys. No, the first Canadians were French. Don't forget it. So you took the name from us.
But
okay, you want to call yourself a Canadian, call yourself a Canadian. But don't forget who were the first Canadian. They weren't Spanish speakers.
And
French speakers.
What language is the comic book bin in?
In English.
Right.
Yes. But still, if you notice at the comic book bin, when we look at the other side, like Newsarama, CBR, all the other guys, it's not like the other guys. First of all, it's not like the other guys because the guy who runs it, first of all, is not from the same culture. Because I'm a French speaker, I get access to all the stuff that's done in French. Like all the comics, all the books, all the literature, all this stuff. We learned that in school. You know, actually I learned both, which is the magic of this country that people want to change. People don't want to recognize that it's a strength. That when you have, it's like two civilizations. It's as if you were born, you, Chris, and you had access to all the knowledge from Japan, and you could speak fluently Japanese. Wouldn't that make you a greater person? Like a person with a better perspective on things? Wouldn't it? Like you could read everything that's written in English, publish all comics, every type of books. You could read everything, all TV shows, all radio shows. You could read everything in English, and you could also read everything in Spanish. And Spanish, Japanese, whatever other language. And it's a different culture, it's a different society, a different way of seeing the world around you. That would make you so much, the perspective of what you do would be so much different. So a lot of time people probably, like the stuff we cover at the bin, for example, the fan films. I know the other website won't touch it because DC says don't touch that. So they obey. And I'm like, the hell I'm going to obey that thing? And you know what happened. They tried to tell us.
Well, we'll have to get into that story, yeah.
Just so users know, I said no. I said we're not removing it.
Well, why don't you go into it and tell us exactly what happened?
Okay, well, all right. I contacted the guys at DC, the head honchos at DC, because I was complaining about the access that we wanted access for Women's Month last year. Mm-hmm. And at the same time, what's his name? Paul Levitz, he just said, well, at the same time, we have concerns about what you do with the fan film section, And, like, he was basically saying, if you want more access to us, you should probably start by removing the fan films.
Right.
At the time, there was a big Blue Beetle picture next to a Wonder Woman picture from one of their comics, and the Blue Beetle from the fan film. For me, that was like the most, boy. You don't tell me what to do on the website. You don't. First of all, we're the press. We're independent. I don't know if people believe in that anymore, but I do, and I guess the guys at the bin do believe in that. The press, you don't tell the press what to do, how to run, what they run, and what to publish. We can trash, but we try not to. We try to do everything seriously. We don't just go, it's not like a free license to just go and trash people. It's not. There's a lot of responsibility, just like the Spider-Man thing. With great power comes great responsibility.
Right, well, that's the policy of the bin, is, because I'm a part of it,
yes.
is don't trash, don't gossip.
We can't gossip, we can't trash, and that's why I tell to Ellie, if you think I go over the board, especially on topics like the French-English thing, where I'm totally biased, you have all powers.
I couldn't tell.
Well, he has the power to actually shut me up.
Right.
Which is I'm pretty sure that the guys from CBR, Newsarama, or any other site, they don't give like some other editor the right to shut them off. They're the owner. If they want to trash, well, they're not going to trash, first of all. But there's not this thing, this fail-safe thing that says, well, okay, even if he owns the thing, he's the boss. If he goes overboard, yeah.
So kind of a checks and balances kind of thing going on.
It is, and I believe in that, because I know I can go over the board. I know, and I've done it a few times. And if I do, even the public who goes to the comic book bin, you're welcome to please, not me, obviously, because I'm biased. Well, if it's related to someone else, but if it's related to something I wrote, obviously don't ask me to censor myself. Mm-hmm. Ask some other editor. And they can deal with that. They have all the powers. And I'm not going to stop them. I'm not going to say, no, don't go over that. We'll discuss it for sure. But I mean, they have the power to censor me. And it's written black and white. They didn't know that. And they have access to all the tools that I have to shut me off if I go overboard. And I believe in that. It's probably why I probably didn't like when DC came to us and told us, well, you have to remove that section. I'm like, no. I mean, within our own community, the comic book bin, I mean, the editors, the writers, we do discuss those issues all the time, how we approach news and things like that. We discuss it all the time. Like, we make our own decisions on our own kind of gang, kind of group, as a group or something. We debate those things, and you know that. We've debated a lot of issues internally before. And that's okay. And sometimes I'm not even involved in those debates. I like to watch them, especially when I'm not involved. I think they're great. I think they're even better when I'm not involved, because people are actually free to say exactly what they say without thinking I'm on one side or the other, and they don't want to go against my side or whatever. Mm-hmm. And you know, I've also done this. For example, I've done the leadership survey, where I actually asked people to rate my leadership.
You took a class. What was the class you took?
Yeah, there was a class called Organizational Behavior, mm-hmm. on how business culture mostly, and I was doing a research on leadership, on how leaders can influence an organization, and especially in particular virtual organization like the comic book bin. So everyone works all over the planet, all across the States and Canada and other places, and how leadership, how do you lead a team that's spread all across the world like that? So that was the base of the paper, and which I got a A or A+. I don't know how much I got, but I got a good mark in that. And the basis was to evaluate my own leadership based on some criterion that was developed by some researcher about what leadership is about in organizations. And I did ask the guys from the bin to anonymously through the form, and I can't, there's a contact form on the site, obviously, and there's no way I can figure out who wrote what. I just can't. So I asked them to please rate me, and I still don't know who said what, and I don't want to know. It's not my affair. The only thing I did was collect all the stuff, all the information, aggregate it, and see where my leadership comes from. Am I a good leader? Turns out I wasn't so bad, but there was a few things that people said, and I try to work on them. I try to fix them. They did mention, a few people mentioned my temper, but which is a fair assessment, and I'm not saying that they weren't right. They were probably very right.
I forget what I put. I did answer that. I forget what the questions were and what I put.
Even know.
Yeah, I don't care if you knew or not.
Don't tell me. This is like, I don't want to know who wrote what, but that's the spirit of the bin. Like, you can criticize the boss, you can criticize the guy. I wrote the paper, I got an A+ on that or something, I don't know. I got a very good mark, and I gave back the paper that I wrote. So, like, I was a very transparent process. So the same paper I gave to the professor, I gave back to everyone from the site. I gave them the paper.
Yep.
And
I remember that.
They all had access to it, and they could read all the stuff, the analysis, and they could make up their own mind based on what everyone, like, all the comments were all printed there, so they knew exactly what everyone said. And that was, I don't know if other publisher who publish news thing do go to that process. For me, it's, I don't know how to explain it. No matter how much I have opinions and things like that, there's like due process. Like the people at the bin, they have a lot of power over what they write, what they do. Sometimes they write articles. I don't agree with them, but I support them. And I'm not gonna, and I don't censor people. The only times we had to change a few things once in a while because we're gonna get sued for stuff. But that's okay, that's normal. But that we fix it. But we don't change the opinion. I don't tell people, you have to think this way. So if people follow the comic book bin very carefully, they'll see that there's a bunch of opinions. There's a lot of material that's covered in there, and it's not to do that. Oh, okay, the guy who owns it likes all this stuff. It has nothing to do with that. It's just, it's a place. It's one of those rare places that's totally independent, where a guy like Chris can create this great fan film section, and when DC comes, like, I'm not a expert on fan films. What I know about fan films, I know about from what Chris does on their website. I guess maybe I shouldn't say. With the amount of work that Chris has done on the website, I guess I could call myself an expert now.
I'm patting myself on the shoulder.
So my point is that this space is sacred to me. No, DC's not going to come and tell us, don't do this. No. First of all, first thing, DC's not an advertiser.
Right.
They've never put money in us. A lot of people thought that we were not players, that we weren't, what we said didn't matter. A lot of people actually say that we're a DC Marvel website, which I'm always like, oh my God. We're a DC Marvel, okay, yeah, there's a lot of Marvel and DC coverage on the site, alright. But have you seen all the critical stuff? I mean, just this weekend, I gave to, what's it called, Secret Invasion number 5, I gave it a 0 out of 10.
I read that.
I've never given a 0 out of 10 to a comic book before. Yeah. Never. So people come and tell me, you're a Marvel guy. Because sometimes they see there's a lot of Marvel reviews and they go, oh, you guys, and there's a lot of stuff that Marvel does that I love. I mean, the stuff that they do, the Spider-Man stuff, the Daredevil, the Thor, I love them. They're great comics. They're just good. They entertain me, and I'd like everyone to read them. I just think they're great, right? It's great stuff, great material. So I will read something like Final Crisis, and I will give it a 2, or no, I never given a 2 either, but I'll give it a 6 or 5. Or other reviewers will give them bad marks. And then people go, well, you guys are all Marvel lights anyway. And I'm like, no, we're not.
Gotcha.
And I'm like, no. I mean, I just gave Marvel a 0 out of 10. I've never done that to any comic book. I thought it was so bad. I thought it was insulting to my brain. And now they're coming up with, after they've done the zombies, they kind of did the Skrull thing. Now they're coming out with the ape thing. I had to write an article about it. I haven't written
it. I don't know. I don't follow DC or Marvel at all.
Well, the way I see it is that Marvel tries everything. So they tried with zombie, okay, it works. So they made action figures, they made everything zombie for a while. Now they're doing the apes.
DC or Marvel?
Marvel.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I know. DC has a history with apes.
Right.
Take your stinking paws off me, you damn dirty ape.
What's next? Cats and dogs?
I don't know. Sperm? I'm not sure.
I mean,
a little sperm with a Captain America helmet on. I'm not sure, but I'm sure it's coming.
It's becoming ridiculous. I have to write an article about that because it's so insulting to my intelligence, and people actually buy this stuff. I'm like, I can't believe it. I mean, yes, it's fun to read. Okay, it's fun, but they're insulting your intelligence at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why I just trashed that Secret Invasion thing. The main reason I trash it is that it's one-sided. You can't have a decent story where all the... Okay, you call it a war, you make those Skrulls into like a big empire, you make it big, you make them sound seriously, and every page of all the Marvel comics that I've been reading since Secret Invasion, there's a Skrull that gets killed every second.
They're being picked off like, I don't know.
Like flies.
Yeah, and they're supposed to be this big ominous villain. Yeah,
and one of my arguments is that if you turn them into, I don't know, pink people or people of other type of shades, people would have been screaming by then. Oh, you can't kill all those people, but just because they're green people, it kind of, all right, they're just green people. Not real people. No, I'm not saying that the Skrull is a people that we're. Actually, I did say it's almost racist. If the Skrull were people, it would be racist.
Those damn green people.
The point is that they're objectifying an enemy. They're making it all right for even Reed Richards to strangle them. Mm-hmm. Reed Richards doesn't kill people. I don't care he was pissed off and his wife and family was taken away. He doesn't kill people. Mm-hmm. You don't understand the character. For me, it's just like an opportunity to just like, okay, let's just start shooting and kill everyone. If it were coming from a character like the Punisher, killing Skrulls left and right, I would believe it. It would make sense. But every other character from Marvel is now killing Skrulls in their books. That doesn't make sense to me. And like, there's no, what's the word? They have no problems doing it. They don't feel guilty. They just kill someone. Like, there's no closure about what they just did. They just
ramifications or
people. Like, they're green guys, so it's okay to kill them.
Yeah, well, I don't know. With DC and Marvel, all it to me is, and maybe I don't understand the whole thing because I haven't collected in over 10 years. It's just splash pages and big boobs and.
Well, Marvel I was actually impressed by Marvel the last few years. They were actually doing something good for once. They were actually building up their stories and making sense of what they did. When I read Civil War, it made sense. Yeah, they had some casualties, okay. But it was well written. Mm-hmm. It wasn't just like free-for-all, let's just kill people every page. It wasn't like that. They did kill a lot of characters, but it wasn't just like a free-for-all. It was measured. Maybe it's because the writer was probably better, too. I don't know. But in the case of the Skrull invasion, it's just a free-for-all, let's just kill some Skrull. And the one thing that doesn't make sense is that those Skrulls are supposed to be amped up in terms of powers, and they still get killed by anything. Mm-hmm. Like, you could slap them in the face and they just drop.
Look at a paper cut. Oh, a hangnail.
That pisses me off because they take me for an idiot when they show me that. And I don't want my comics to take me for an idiot. It used to work when I was, I don't know, a kid or something, okay, but not anymore. Right. If you're gonna try to say that we're Marvel and now we do comics that actually matter to our readers, well, don't write stuff that's like quasi-intelligent. Don't kill Skrull every page is without it doesn't make sense. It's just stupid. No Marvel, I don't know how many characters from Marvel, probably 2 B characters have died so far in that Secret Invasion. And no other Marvel character has died. It doesn't make sense. Yeah. Even some D characters just kill Skrull left and right, and it's not balanced. It doesn't make sense.
Because usually in war, people die. It's
on both sides.
Exactly. You know.
So that pisses me off. So I just trashed it.
Who's to measure that?
I gave it a 0. Then, obviously, I did the logical thing. I contacted the PR people from Marvel. Obviously, they didn't answer.
No.
But I told them, I said, I've never given a 0 mark to one of your comics, or any comics. I've never done that. It's like outrageous. You don't give a 0.
Right.
There has to be some merit to that thing. And for me, there was no merit. It just deserved a 0. The story was so bad. Sometimes, usually when I try to review things, I say, well, half of the points are for the visual part, the other half is for the story, right?
Right.
In this case, the story was so bad that it just sunk every whatever achievement, even if the lettering was genius. The story was so bad that it sunk everything else with it.
Yeah.
And what was funny, again, was that I've read other reviews written all over the web by other guys, and they all praised it. And I'm like, what? And that's the one thing which, I guess, if people don't get the bin, people say, okay, you guys are just do Marvel and DC reviews. Okay, maybe. But when we do them, we actually think about it. We actually sit down. The fact, it's not just killing characters left and right is not satisfying for me. No. And I said it was quasi-racist, the way they were killing those green people. I know there's no such thing as a green person. I know. I don't know. I haven't seen green people yet. I couldn't get those other reviews. I'm like, what? Don't you guys take enough distance to actually look at what? Okay, so they're kicking ass in this issue. They haven't kicked ass for the entire series. Okay, that's a fair assessment.
All right.
But to say that it's great because they're kicking ass, don't you know that Reed Richards doesn't kill people? I'm not one of those, I guess. I like to use the word fan, but readers who. Yes, by the way, people, we don't use the word fan at the comic book bin officially. It's in the writing guide. There's a bunch of words that we can't use. Fan is one of them. We
Fanboy, geek, nerd.
Yes, we don't use geeks we don't. Why do we do this? Because we don't want to insult you guys. I believe in smart discussion about whatever we do, and calling a fan just diminishes you guys. We just call you fan, so it's just like, oh, because fans don't matter. They're fanatics. The vision, especially in this industry, is that fans are, you don't have to respect them. And my position is totally the opposite.
I am so ruined, I am so poor, I am a geek, of that I'm sure. I took the geek test and scored 1,000%, also known as a 10 to the cube. For sure I have no friends. I am a geek, I am a dork, I am a geek, it's true.
Yeah, but geek, don't you think geek and nerd and fanboy are all becoming cool?
As a matter of respect, I don't call the people who come at the bin fans. They're not fans, they're enthusiasts.
Okay, that's a good word.
Well, that's the word I use. You read my articles. If you can't find the word fan in one of my articles,
right.
Well, okay, maybe in the older ones, but I mean, everything I've written frequently, you'll probably find enthusiast instead of the word fan. Some of the other guys on the site, sometimes they slip. For example, we don't use the word comics. I insist that we use the word comic book. Exception when we talk about web comics.
Comics are like George Carlin, Andrew Dice Clay.
Little things like that we insist. That, and I see, and read any other website, you'll see comics left and right, or soups, or retcon. We don't use the word retcon or bats or Spidey. We use Spider-Man, Superman, Batman, retroactive continuity. I mean, those are little things. If people don't understand what the bin is about, maybe things like the writers know, because I insist all the time. Language is very important, and I should know. And you don't use short ends, because one of the things also, my belief about the bin, is that this site has to be accessible to new readers and older readers. So, for me, what's a retcon? Like, the first time you read about something, then you read the word retcon. What the hell is a retcon? Well, most comic book or entertainment websites will just use the word retcon left and right and never explain it to you. I insist that the writers at the bin say retroactive continuity. Oh, by the way, you don't know what retroactive continuity is. What? Blah 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 blah. I insist that we don't, even though it creeps in all the time, that we don't use the word comics. We use the word comic books.
Right.
The only exception, like I said, is when we talk about web comics. Then it becomes its own word or something like that. Little details in language which we try to elevate the debate a bit more. So even though we have strong beliefs and strong opinions, but we try to do it in not just respectful, but in a structured kind of way.
Mm-hmm.
There's probably tens of typos, but you won't see fans or comics.
Right.
There's always typos.
Yeah, mine too.
But that's okay. But there's those things I care about. For me, that's important that we don't. The medium is called comic book, not
right.
Comics. Even though it's used all over the place, I don't care. We do use the word comics for the comics section per se, but we want it to take less space. That's all.
Can I ask you a question? Because I'm very curious, and then I want to get into how the comic book bin came about.
Okay.
But my curiosity is Marvel and DC, and a majority of the reviews on the website are pretty negative to what I read. I think, in my opinion, do you get free copies from Marvel and DC?
Nope.
Okay, so you buy them. Do you get any... Two-tier question then. Okay, that's the answer, no, and you can expand on that. But
I should probably explain that one.
Okay, go ahead.
Marvel, no, we get absolutely nothing from Marvel. Nothing. Everything you see about Marvel was bought by the person who reviewed it.
Right.
DC, we get books once in a while, very rarely, when it's a special book, like Brave and the Bold #1, special issues like that, nothing else, that's it. From other publishers, we do get a lot of stuff, though. A lot of the manga,
right?
We get, which is why we always need more reviewers, because Leroy has probably more books than he can handle. But obviously, I need serious reviewers, not just people. Because the other thing we insist is that if we get a book, and I'm the first person who's guilty about that, if we get a book, we have to review it as a courtesy.
No, absolutely.
The problem I have is that, and but I have to figure out how to fix that problem once and for all, that I get most of the books, I get them. And obviously because of everything else I do at the bin, and I have a regular life, I just can't review that many books. I just can't. So that's one of the main issues I'm trying to fix. I have Andy, who's a friend in town. Whenever I have extra books, I try to give them to him so he can review it. I've tried to recruit people locally so I could give them books, because shipping them is a bit expensive. It's cost prohibitive, especially when you get those hardcover. We get like big hardcovers. I've got a cool book I've received, science fiction book. And I just plugged the name because it sounds very good. I haven't read it because I just don't have time. It's called The Last Realm and Dragonscape.
Okay.
It's a thick book, like huge. Hardcover. I can't ship that. It's going to cost me an arm and a leg to ship that. If I could find local reviewer, I would gladly give them that book, because I'm not even reading it myself. Because I give book all the time. So.
Try Craigslist.
I'm sorry?
Craigslist?
I've already done that.
Have you?
I've done it a few times. I've gotten people I didn't want them to review the book. So.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I've gotten people didn't get it. I said I go, all right, I'm going to give you books, but I'm not paying you. I'm giving you the book.
Right.
Just review it. Well, I want to get paid. I'm like,
dumbass.
They
must be English people.
Book.
It's only the English people that respond to those ads, because they're so stupid.
I mean, what else? I'm like, don't ask to be paid. I'm giving it to you.
Right.
You would have to go in the store and buy it. It's $20, $30. I don't know how much it is. I'm giving it to you. Just take it and do the damn review. No, they don't. I mean, people don't get that.
Yeah, people
they want to get paid. I'm like, be serious.
Yeah.
You're getting a free book.
Right. I deal with that myself, and for other reasons, but yeah.
I did try Craigslist several times, but I always get those people who want to get paid. I'm like, no, I'm giving it to you. You're not getting paid.
Okay. So let's answer this, and then we'll get into how you created the bin. Does Marvel and DC contact you if you do a bad review, then piss and moan? And on the flip side, if you do a good review, which I don't think I've ever read one on the bin,
there are some very good reviews on the bin. Come on. I just told you I love Thor. I love it.
Oh, okay. I didn't read that one.
8 out of or 9 or 10.
Oh, wow.
I review got a 10.
Wow. I have to go back and read that one.
Daredevil gets good marks all the time.
Which one?
Spider-Man gets good marks all the time. I love those books.
Okay.
Do they contact us? I know that Marvel has done it, and both of them have actually done it. They've taken reviews from us, and some of them post part of it. Some of them, Marvel, in the case of Marvel, they've posted completely a few times. They didn't tell us. We found out after. Same thing for DC. Other publishers do that too. So yeah, they do it all the time. That's a common practice.
All right, that's cool.
So yeah, a lot of those sites do take stuff that not even my stuff. They take it from all the writers, because there's many writers at the bin, and it happens all the time. I've actually found something I believe I've written in the Valiant comic on the hardcover of the book. They quoted something from the comic book bin, which was cool. People do pick up the stuff. So I know they follow it. If they do their job right, they're following it.
Okay.
If they did, like the guys at Marvel, the PR guy, the marketing people, if they were doing their job right, they knew about that review even before I sent them that email. Smart companies do that. One of my pet peeves, I know we're supposed to get into how the bin started. One of my pet peeves is the state of public relations in this industry. It's very bad. It's poor. And the state of business, the business spirit, how people handle business. Most of the stuff, the news we get is sales pitch, not a real press release. It's buy this, it's coming out Wednesday, which is not a press release. They make it look like a press release, but it's a sales pitch. It's mostly, instead of buying advertising and saying buy this book, they just send this as a press release and try to pass that as news.
That's what drives me crazy about like a Newsarama site. What the fuck is this?
It's not news.
That's right. Am I looking at a Sears catalog?
We do post a lot of it, but then we don't put our names. You've probably noticed we put the editor. Whenever you see something that's called the editor at the comic book bin,
that's stuff from other people.
It's from other people. It's probably been cleaned. We clean a lot of stuff. When I post these things, they usually say we're the greatest, the best, and blah blah blah. And one article I wrote, most of them usually it's always the guys. I'm thrilled and excited to work with so and so. Whenever I see this now, I just remove it because that's bullshit.
Right.
Everyone is thrilled and excited to work with so and so.
You can't say bullshit on my show.
That's the second or third time I've said it.
You can't say fuck or cocksucker on my show either.
Well, I haven't said those.
Oh, okay.
So that pisses me off. So everything to do with business, you probably notice. There's a bunch of articles written about business in this industry. I'm currently writing that long series about the business plan. I feel there's a need to educate those people because I come from a business background, and the stuff that passes for business and news and marketing and PR from the comic book industry, all of those guys would be fired within 1 week in any other industry. They would be fired. It makes no sense. So I wrote, whenever I write about the business plan thing, it's important to educate them, I guess. And I know those articles have made a difference for a lot of people. But some of those guys who are supposed to be pros are not acting like pros. That article, I know you commented on that. What happened with the guys at IDW? When I went in San Diego at their booth, there was 10 of them behind the booth standing, and not one of them were reaching out to the people passing by. Not one of them. I called that attitude in our article. Obviously, the publisher didn't like it. We exchanged a couple of emails. He thought I was not helping them and kind of destroying their reputation. Wow. That's not what he said, but that's what he meant.
Tough shit.
But I'm like, well, when I went at the booth, why didn't you guys shake my hand? Why didn't you guys reach out to me? Why? Why were all the people, why were all you guys who work at IDW, why were you all speaking to each other instead of looking at the people up front? Because I've held booths, and that's what I wrote in the article. I've had booths where I had to go in conventions and stuff, and I jump at people, because that's my business I'm representing. It's my business. That's my livelihood. I don't have time to chat with people I see every day. My business is to get you, which I only going to see once in a lifetime, probably, grab you as soon as you come by and bring you in and say, this is my business, this is what I do, these are my services, these are my product, buy them, care about me. But for him, it was insulting. He was like, well, that's not you shouldn't have written like that, blah, 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 we tried, and you didn't try hard enough. Because mostly what pissed me off was when he went, probably because he wanted a better deal for the next year San Diego Con at the location he was renting. He said, well, maybe I'm not going next year. And I'm like, you just slapped in the face all your friends who flew in. I came from Calgary. That's a bunch of, I don't know how much miles I had to go from Calgary to San Diego, but it's a long way. All right? So all those people, which is why I really love San Diego. At San Diego, I saw people, you would call them misfits, fat people, people, geeks. People I would call them? I would call them.
How people dare you insinuate I would call them that?
People, you wouldn't dare walk on the same sidewalk as them if you saw them in your hometown, right? You would find them creepy or fat or not.
Are they French? No, I'm kidding. No, I'm kidding.
Actually, the French, did you know that French people in Canada is better than all...
I didn't want to get you onto another tangent. I was making a joke.
No, but I'm just rectifying a few facts here.
Okay,
it's known that French people dress better and take better care of their bodies and better care of their physical attitude. Even if they're fat, they look good.
They got time. They have 5 months vacation every year.
No. People from France.
Oh, okay.
You only get 3 weeks, just like you.
Okay.
But I mean... No, it's a known fact, but Canadians know that. When you go in Montreal, have you been to Montreal?
No, I've only been to Toronto.
Well, if you go to Montreal, you notice right away that all the girls look good. Before they go out, they dress up, they put makeup, and not overdo it. And they're not dressed like trashy. No. It's always girls in Montreal, and even guys. People would say everyone from Montreal, every guy is a metrosexual. No, they're not even metrosexual. That's how could I say? That's
what
like
the hell's a metrosexual? What is a metrosexual?
A metrosexual. That's a name that's given to straight guys who take care of themselves as good as gay guys.
Really?
Yes.
There's a term for that?
There's a term for that.
Okay.
Like, straight guys who dress as good as gay guys.
Okay.
That's basically what
usually I call them gay, but okay.
No, some of them are straight. So, in Montreal, all right, you would find that the average guy is a metrosexual.
Okay.
And you say, whoa, so many gay people in Montreal. No, they're not all gay. No.
They're just very cleanly.
Most of them are probably straight, but they just take care of themselves by default. That's how it is in Montreal. It's a culture thing. You don't go out. That's why something which, Calgary, whenever I see people kissing, they only kiss once.
Guys?
I'm like, you kiss once. In Montreal, we kiss twice. We kiss one cheek, the second cheek. That's it.
Right.
And people are probably seeing me kiss some people 2 cheeks, because I've got some friends here who know that I'm not going to give just one kiss. That's outrageous to me. I have to give them 2 kisses. Mm-hmm. That's how I do it. That's how I've always done it. And people are, I'm probably gay.
Well, if we ever meet, man, don't give me 2 kisses. Don't give me 1 kiss. Give me a handshake.
Okay. No, but my point is, like, they probably go, okay, yeah, this guy, he gets to kiss. Like, he actually spends the time to kiss those 2 sides. He's probably, yeah. And it's not. That's like the norm in Montreal. That's how it is. Different culture.
Well, it's a whole culture. Right.
That's what I was saying at the...
Well, the same with, you're in the Middle East there. The guys will walk down the street holding their hands. They could be cousins or brothers.
Yeah.
It's not a homosexual or gay thing. It's... What's that?
We don't go that far.
Well, hey, it's a cultural thing. And then I believe in, in Greenland, the guys walk down the street with each other's penises in their mouth. But, I mean, it's a cultural thing. And that's what I'm trying to say. Anyways, this got off track real fast.
Yeah, but that's what I meant earlier when I said about the perspective about a different culture.
Mm-hmm.
That by default, I mean, my brain is programmed to kiss twice. It's not about being metrosexual or gay. It has nothing to do. It's just my brain is programmed to kiss twice. And if I kiss you once, I feel like there's something missing. It's like, I don't know, the flow doesn't work. Like, I don't give you enough love. I'm not greeting you well enough. I'm like, it's like if I kiss you once, like, okay, it's I'm like, whoa, no. It's like there's something wrong. It's like I'm being nasty or impolite to you. So, yeah, but that was going back to metrosexual, and then before that, what was it?
I was going to ask you.
Yeah, San Diego. Okay, and then how the bin came along. Okay, San Diego. So at San Diego, and the guy from IDW said, well, we don't want to go there anymore, even though they're based in San Diego. So I'm like, no, all those people who, even I, especially I, because I'm from Montreal, and like I said, people in Montreal dress up. Like, I would look at them, I'm like, no, I wouldn't give them the time of day if they were in my local town. I would see them like, ooh, I would probably change the sidewalk.
Right,
I wouldn't want to be cut dead next to them. But those people, still I respect them. Why? Because they flew in from all that distance. Some of them probably never go out. They're probably like sheltered or something because they probably don't like the way they look, or people criticize them and all that. My point is that they probably don't have a big social network.
Right.
Some of them come dressed up as geeks or whatever, any type of character. At first, I'm like, oh boy, here goes the dressed up people. Now I respect them. Why? This is the only place, other places, but one of the few places where they actually take over the entire city. And they're proud of this. The equivalent, I would say, you're going to find that funny. It's a bit like a gay parade or something. It's like, they're like, we're queer, or we're geeks, right? We're proud. And they go around parading in the entire street and city for a week. And no one can diss them in that period of time where they're dressed as their favorite characters.
Mm-hmm.
And for them, it means something. And I respect that now. It wasn't always like that. I changed my mind on that. But I respect that. And you have to respect those people. You may find them, like, creepy or whatever, but you have to respect them. Those people flew in. And it's the only time per year where they can actually take over an entire city and not feel ashamed about being overweight or whatever they have, whatever problems they have, social issues, anxiety, whatever. They don't look good or whatever. It's the only time where they can be themselves. So if your company like IDW, for me, you're a fairly big enough company, and you're gonna tell those guys you're not gonna show up, I'm gonna rip you apart, and that's what I did.
Mm-hmm.
You're not gonna show up because you think it's too much money, and you don't want to care about those fans. You're not gonna care about those people. I'm gonna rip you a new one, and that's what I did in the article. You didn't like it.
Yeah, but if you're gonna have someone representing, I mean, a fairly well-known comic book company, I mean, in the big scheme of things, IDW is a pimple on my ass because no one cares about comics in the grand scheme of things. But in the small bubble of the comic book community, IDW is a fairly well-known comic book imprint. So you should have someone with somewhat social skills, representing your company. But I understand what you're saying.
So that was my beef. And you can't. You have no right, if you're IDW, especially if you have the Transformers and the G.I. Joe French license to publish comics, you have no rights. And I don't care what they say. They must hate me by now, especially after this goes live. You have no right to say you're not going to show up the next year. You have no right to diss those people because they flew in from all over the States, all over Canada, all over other places, other countries, a lot of them too, Europe, Asia, other places. You have no right to tell them that you're not going to be there.
Mm-hmm.
Because without those guys, you're not here. Without those guys, neither is the bin.
Right.
So, like, it's a big expense, yeah. The point is not to make money selling a couple of paperbacks. You can always make that up, do like Top Shelf did, a $3 sale later during the year. If you really want to get rid of inventory, you can do that later. The point is to meet the people you work for. And I do mention you work for. They don't work for you. Well, they do when they pay, when they go to work to earn enough money to pay for those.
Right.
But you work for them, not the opposite.
Right.
You serve them. You are their servant, and not the other way around. You are not a star. They are the stars. You have to respect them, and you have to be there next year at San Diego for them. You're not doing it for you. You're doing it for them. They are the reason you are in business.
Right. Absolutely.
And this thing about the comic book industry, they have a problem understanding that it's not about them. It's about the reader. It's the reader that matters.
And if you want people to buy your product, then you have to be out there to promote it, and you have to be out there to sell it, and you have to have some personality and some presentation to get that out. Exactly.
Like I said in the article, was next to a booth where they had 3 girls dressed in silver suits, very sexy girls.
All right, now you're talking.
Because I was jumping over people to come and look at my stuff.
Uh-huh. Your stuff? Sexy girls looking at your stuff?
Okay, the public was looking at my stuff.
The whole public was looking at your stuff?
No.
Wow.
My point is that we had more people. There was more people at my booth than the next booth where they had the 3 girls standing there.
Uh-huh.
And it's not because, even though I was in Montreal and dressed properly, no. They weren't coming for me. It's because I was jumping over them and said, come and look at my stuff. Come and look at those things I'm doing here.
Uh-huh.
Come and look at it.
Right.
Don't stay away. Look.
Right.
That's my philosophy.
Look at my stuff.
Well, yeah. Don't look at those nice girls. Look at me instead.
Right. Look at my stuff. Don't look at their boobs. Look at my stuff.
Forget about the boobs. Look over here. Look at me.
You had a table at San Diego?
No. That was a Montreal.
Oh, Montreal.
Media,
Okay.
Professional thing, industry thing.
Okay.
With multimedia companies. Because, if people don't know, yes. I'm known as the Toon Doctor. I make Flash cartoons.
Right.
For a living.
Right.
So that's why I was at that multimedia convention. And that was the plan. I mean, telling people about what the work I do, the work the company does. And there was someone else with me at the booth for most of the time, and I didn't stand and speak with him. And like I said in the article, when I wasn't talking to him, he was handling the people I could not handle myself. So anyone that was like extra people, or he was, sometimes you need someone else to answer those questions that I probably didn't answer because I'm talking to you on the phone.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, by the way, French people, when we speak, our hands go all over, fly all over like Italians. Like
oh, yeah.
That's what I'm doing currently right now.
Yeah.
That's what I was doing at the booth, like my hands going all over.
I'm married to one of those, I understand.
Oh boy, it's flying.
I'm married to a half Italian, so she just uses one of her hands.
Okay. Well, I'm using both. I'm actually doing that right now. I'm actually using both hands. That's how I speak.
How are you holding the phone?
Well,
are you levitating the phone with your mind?
No, it's on my shoulder and my 2 hands are free. And actually, people here in Calgary, because they can usually French Canadian. They see me. Hand going all over the place. Yeah, he's Canadian. He's a Frenchie.
It's a Frenchie.
It's easy to figure out. I mean, that's cultural.